It's easy to think these things only happen far away, that when the government delays or suspends pension payments, it's someone else's problem, in another country, on another continent. But not today. What's happening right now with the South African Social Security Agency, the SASSA grant suspension set to hit from July 15th, isn't just a local administrative hiccup. It's a harsh reminder of how fragile pension systems can become, and how quickly thousands of older people can find themselves without their essential monthly income, through no fault of their own. And here's why that should matter to us here in the UK. Right now, over 18 million South Africans rely on SASSA payments to survive, many of them older pensioners who've worked their entire lives and now depend on those grants for food, shelter, electricity, and medicine. But suddenly, many are being told they won't receive their money this month. No letter, no explanation, just silence and fear. And this comes after months of system upgrades, identity verification issues, banking delays, and underfunding. Sound familiar? Because here in Britain, we are already seeing similar warning signs, payment delays tied to digital verification rollouts, frozen claims due to security checks, errors in bank details causing benefit stoppages, and looming changes to how pensions and support payments are processed. Whether it's the DWP making tweaks without warning, or the growing dependence on online portals to prove you're eligible, it all adds up to one worrying truth: if it can happen in South Africa, it can happen here too. So before you scroll away thinking this isn't about you, pause. What's unfolding with SASSA right now could be a glimpse into our future. And if you depend on any kind of state support in the UK, pension, universal credit, attendance allowance, carers allowance, then you need to know what's happening, why it matters, and how to protect yourself before it's too late. Let's get into the full truth. So let's break this all down in real terms, because what's happening isn't just some far-off news headline, it's a real situation impacting real pensioners, and it's raising alarm bells for those of us here in the UK who've seen enough over the past few years to know that pension systems are not as rock-solid as we are sometimes led to believe. Whether it's SASSA in South Africa or the DWP here in Britain, once the gears of government start grinding slower, or worse, get stuck, those of us depending on timely payments are often the ones left waiting, wondering, and worrying. Now, the shocking part in all of this isn't just that payments are being delayed in South Africa. It's the sheer scale of it. Imagine waking up one day, checking your account, and the money that was supposed to be there simply isn't. No warning. No letter through the post. No phone call. Just silence. People in their 70s and 80s, living on the edge already, suddenly left without the little money they depend on to eat, to keep warm, to stay healthy. And then being told, there's been a system issue. We're working on it. That's not good enough when your electricity bill is overdue or you've run out of food for the week. And here's the connection that should really hit home for all of us watching this from Britain. These problems didn't come out of nowhere. They came after a string of changes to how the payments were processed. SASSA introduced a new biometric verification system, demanded more stringent ID checks, and shifted more pensioners onto digital platforms to receive their money. Sound familiar? Because right now in the UK, we are undergoing eerily similar transitions. There's been an aggressive push from the Department for Work and Pensions to move services online, to tie benefits and pensions into digital banking, and to demand more frequent personal verification for things we used to take for granted as automatic. We've already seen a rising number of pensioners facing frozen payments because they were flagged by automated systems looking for irregularities. And if you've ever received a confusing letter from the DWP telling you that your details need to be reviewed, or that your national insurance record has a gap, or that your state pension amount needs to be reassessed, then you know how bewildering and stressful that can be, especially when you've done absolutely nothing wrong. The uncomfortable truth is this: all it takes is a small system error, a glitch in a database, or a delay in a verification check, and your payment could be held up indefinitely. And what's worse, the burden is often placed on you to fix it, to chase the department, to prove who you are, to fill in forms and wait on hold for hours. And that's if you're lucky enough to get through to someone on the phone. The DWP helpline, as many of you know, is stretched thinner than ever. One wrong detail in the system, your surname misspelled, your bank account updated but not saved correctly, or a letter you never received, and suddenly your entire month's income is at risk. Now, let's go back to South Africa for a moment. Why did this payment chaos happen now, in July? It turns out it followed a massive database update, something the government insisted was necessary to protect against fraud and ensure only eligible pensioners receive funds. We've heard similar language here in the UK, haven't we? Just look at the increased use of artificial intelligence in the DWP's fraud detection processes. It might sound clever, but in practice, it's causing real people to be wrongly flagged and real payments to be wrongly stopped. One pensioner from Durban, for instance, told her local paper that she'd received her grant like clockwork for the last 12 years, then suddenly, this month, nothing. She waited in queues for hours at the local SASSA office, only to be told her file was under reassessment. But she hadn't changed anything. Her name, address, ID number, and bank details were all the same. And yet, because of a system update and a stricter checking process, she was left penniless. That same story is starting to play out in the UK too. In recent months, we've seen growing reports of pensioners whose payments have been stopped due to new anti-fraud systems or after a so-called routine check. Often the checks themselves take weeks, sometimes even months. And during that time, people are left completely in the lurch. It's no exaggeration to say that, for someone living on the state pension alone, a missed payment can mean going hungry or skipping vital medication. And what's particularly troubling is that many of these system changes are being rolled out quietly, without much public awareness. You might not even know you're affected until the payment fails to show up in your account. There's no national headline when a few thousand payments are delayed, just the lived reality of pensioners scrambling to understand why the money they were promised hasn't arrived. This is why it's so important for all of us, especially older people relying on fixed incomes, to stay informed, not just about what's happening here at home, but also about international stories that could signal what's around the corner for us. Because let's be honest, when one government finds a way to cut costs or tighten the belt on social spending, others often follow suit. It becomes a kind of playbook. The same terms get used: modernization, efficiency, fraud prevention. But beneath all that jargon, the real story is often about delays, denials, and disruption for the very people who need stability most. And for those of you who might be thinking, well, I haven't had any issues with my pension yet, that's wonderful, but it doesn't mean you're immune. The system is changing. Slowly, yes, but surely. Digital rollouts, centralized databases, automated risk scoring, all these are reshaping how benefits and pensions are paid. And unfortunately, they're also creating more opportunities for innocent people to be caught in the crossfire. Even things like the recent push to prove residency for some pensioners living abroad have led to payment suspensions. People who have lived in the UK their entire lives but chose to retire in Spain or France are suddenly being asked to re-verify their entire identity, and if they missed the deadline or never received the letter in the first place, their payments get frozen. No appeal, no warning. Just silence. So what can you do? Well, the first step is to make sure your information is always up to date. It sounds simple, but it matters more than ever now. Check that your bank account details are accurate. Make sure your name is spelled exactly the same across all documents. If you've moved house recently or changed any part of your personal circumstances, notify the DWP as soon as possible. And just as importantly, keep records, letters, confirmations, bank statements. If something does go wrong, you'll need proof on your side. Secondly, talk to others. Far too many pensioners suffer in silence, thinking they're the only one facing delays or issues. But when you speak to neighbors, friends, even online support groups, you'll realize you're not alone. And when we talk about these problems, we shine a light on them. That's often the only way real pressure is put on the government to fix what's broken. And lastly, keep a watchful eye on policy changes. Things like the recent adjustments to the pension credit qualifying rules, or the introduction of stricter criteria for attendance allowance, might seem minor on paper, but they affect real people in real ways. Every rule change, every efficiency drive, every tech upgrade has a human cost. And it's often the most vulnerable who end up paying that price. So while the current crisis with SASSA in South Africa might feel like a distant storm, it's closer to home than you might think. It's a case study in what can go wrong when pension systems are modernized too quickly, without proper safety nets for the people they're supposed to serve. It's a wake-up call for South Africa, yes, but also for Britain. Because whether you're drawing your pension today or planning to claim soon, none of us can afford to be caught off guard. We need systems that are reliable, fair, and human. Systems that prioritize the dignity and well-being of older people, not just numbers on a spreadsheet. And we need clear communication, something we've sorely lacked. If changes are being made, if new rules are coming in, then pensioners deserve proper notice, clear explanations, and real help when things go wrong. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about money. It's about peace of mind. It's about knowing you can pay your bills, fill your fridge, and live your life without fear that the next month's income might suddenly vanish because of a computer glitch or a paperwork shuffle. The lesson from South Africa is that when systems fail pensioners, the damage runs deeper than delayed payments. It shakes people's trust. It breaks their confidence in institutions they've contributed to their entire lives. And once that trust is broken, it's incredibly difficult to rebuild. So let's pay attention, not just to what's happening here, but to what's happening everywhere. Let's hold our government to account. Let's protect our right to a secure retirement. And let's make sure that no one, no matter where they live, ever wakes up to find their pension has disappeared without a trace.